So as the country now looks to see what happens from the 1st of June, let's raise some of the big questions right at the top of the show tonight. Lockdowns after lockdown, success or failure? Does India really need lockdown 5.0? Has the lockdown strategy outlived its utility now? Can India afford to lower its guard? Some of the questions I'm going to raise on the show today. I'm joined by special guests at the moment. I'm joined by Shamika Ravi. She is a member, or she has been a member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Group, and she has tracked this lockdown statistically over the last couple of months. I'm joined by Dr. Vinod Paul. He is from the Niti Aayog and has headed the Prime Minister's COVID-19 medical emergency team at the Niti Aayog. So he's very much part of the decision-making process. And I'm joined by Dr. Ramanan Lakshminarayan, professor of Princeton, who has also tracked this very, very diligently over the years. So I appreciate all of you joining us on the show. Let me first come with the big picture, which I want to raise when I say, is it a failure or a success? COVID-19 in India, when lockdown 1.0 started, there were 657 cases on the 25th of March. By the time COVID-2 came, it was up to 12,371. Lockdown 3, the cases had gone up to 46,434. Lockdown 4, 1,03,326. Now, as we approach the 27th of May, the numbers have gone up to 1,51,000. So, through the month of May, as you can see, the numbers have increased rapidly over this period of time in particular. Which brings me to the big question. Is this the right time then to end the lockdown or to relax or lower the guard? Dr. Shamika Ravi, why don't you take that first? You've tracked this over the days. Do you believe that there is any sign of the numbers slowly easing now?
Well, Rajdeep, what we are talking about at the national level is that there has been a considerable slowdown in the total number, but mostly it makes sense to track the active numbers because India is seeing very large recovery numbers. And in terms of the growth of our active numbers, it had come down to doubling at 23 days, which means it had slowed down considerably. It had come down to 3% growth rate. But, in the last 1 week, we've had some reversal, which meant we went back to doubling at 14 days. Right. And today, after a week, we are seeing again that decline begin to happen again. So I think, at an all India level, trying to sort of read the trend and make sense of, national level sort of spread of the infection can be very misleading. So I think it makes sense then to look at the state level data.
Let's look at that state level. Let me for a moment stop you so that you can tell us about the state level, because tracking COVID-19, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Delhi, Rajasthan, 5 states account for 72% of the total cases. If I then look at cities, Mumbai, Thane, Pune, Delhi, Ahmedabad, Indore, Jaipur, Chennai, Surat, Kolkata, Hyderabad, 11 cities account for 61% of the cases, more than 93,000. Now tell me then, should the lockdown only focus, if there is to be 5.0, on these states and the 11 cities?
Well, frankly, again, even states in India are very large, Rajdeep. I think, when you're talking about all of Rajasthan or all of Tamil Nadu or all of Maharashtra, it's important, therefore, something I've been talking about now for the last 2 months is that unless you have highly disaggregated local level information, I don't think, locking up cities also beyond so many days can become extremely difficult. So I think without that, highly disaggregated contact tracing information, which means exactly what is the level of spread. But it's very clear that Maharashtra has only grown in its share in the overall number in the country. If you consider that now it's beyond 1/3.
So you're saying you need to look at this.
It is almost 45%.
Right. So you're saying you've got to look at disaggregated numbers, look at those states, within the states, which are the areas that have been the worst affected. Dr. Paul, let me come to you, because is that the way the government is seeing the success or failure of the lockdown? That the fact is that while the numbers continue to grow, the growth is largely in particular states or zones. Is that for you a source of comfort as you look to whether there should be a further extension in the lockdown?
Well, this is a very important aspect to be understood, both nationally, from the national perspective, but also from the regional, district, and the city perspective. Both are important for us to appreciate before we move forward. Nationally, the big picture shows us that we moved from a doubling rate of about 3.4 days to over 13 days. So that's an overall impact. And this has prevented between 14 to 29 lakh cases to have happened in our country. That has been averted. We believe 37,000 to 78,000 deaths have been averted. And also, please keep in mind that 14 to 29 lakh such individuals are not there to be spreading infection further. That's your future. So that is true. And what has happened is that the steep rise in the curve at the start of the lockdown and restrictions has come down. It is steep, it is rising, but it is rising at a lower trajectory. Now, this is a fact, and this must therefore be appreciated when we look at how the restrictions, including lockdown and all other strategies, have worked. At the same time, the other aspect which is very important is that as a result of all this effort that the nation put out, the pandemic is now localized, as you evidently stated just now, to areas and states and cities in a finite number. At least today, it's not all over. You already made that point that a few cities are accounting for 66% of the cases. 10 states account for 90% of the cases. So that one part is that there is an overall impact in terms of less number of infections, lower mortality. At the same time, there is localization of infection as of now. And of course, health system preparedness has taken place. That's another aspect. So this must be borne in mind as we move forward. And indeed, if India is to be seen as a large subcontinent, let's say Europe, you don't shut down Luxembourg if the problems are in Norway. So this will be borne in mind. This is one way of looking at it. But then there can be generic issues at times that have to be addressed. All these approaches, all these thoughts, all the scientific evidence, and the practical experience will be kept in mind once.
But you're giving us a potential news point. You're giving us a potential news point as someone who's involved in the decision-making strategy. You're telling us that it is possible that you could have much more localized lockdowns this time. But let me just remind you, Dr. Paul, on April 24th, you had made a presentation that India would see a decline in new coronavirus cases by May 16. From May 3rd, India would hit its peak, adding daily new cases at a little above 1,500, and this would drop to 1,000 cases and then down to 0 by May 16. That hasn't happened. So is there a fear that anything you project today may not materialize 1 month from now? Is that a concern?
That's why nobody is projecting. Even on that day, there was no projection. What it was stating was based on the behavior of the virus spread and the epidemic characteristics, we were seeing a pattern of slowing down of a certain nature, and a provisional guesstimates, provisional judgment was being made in public, and this data was in public. And of course, things didn't go that way. We had problems, particularly in some cities. We moved in a different way. So I think the business of projections is very dangerous. We are learning several things about the pandemic. And remember, this pandemic has two major characteristics or two major variables. One, there is a certain behavior of the virus that probably moves in a mathematical way. It infects a certain number of people, but we don't know how it does so in India. We are just looking at data from other places. We are still learning so much. Whole world. The second part is that the final trajectory is not the decision of the virus. How we create headwinds to stop the virus spread, how much we are able to succeed by way of social distancing, mask, other precautions that we take, that determines the final trajectory. Now, the virus equation is known to some extent to the epidemiologists, but how we mount our response, a counter response at the population level, at the district level, at the Zilla, is something which is not easy to put in the equation. So you are learning, you are making decisions, you are modifying, and you are humble enough to say that, look, let's be ready for the worst, the best, and be prepared in a very rational way as we move forward.
Let me bring you in also then, Dr. Lakshminarayan, because you've been from day one saying that the numbers are going to go up, that is something you're going to have to live with, which then brings us to the theory that if we want a lockdown 5.0, how does that reconcile with the idea of living with the virus? Do you believe that stage has now come, where as the numbers suggest, they are localized, they are focused on certain states, we've just got to live with the virus?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
You know, someone else's voice came in the middle, Rajdeep. So I think I heard your question.
Yes, go ahead.
And see, the answer is, and I think I've said this right from the outset, right from the beginning, which is that the lockdown was meant to be a temporary measure. It was meant to be a way to push the epidemic curve out. There is no way to defeat a virus like this in a country like India. We are not New Zealand. We are not a small country. To be able to shut down the virus based on a lockdown, I think that's amply known to everyone. And second is, the lockdown is a very blunt tool to address it. You can't use your fine tools at short notice, therefore you go for the bluntest tool. And the lockdown was effective. It certainly pushed the curve out. I think you've heard from Shamika and from Dr. Vinod Paul that we've certainly seen a slowing down, which was the intended effect. I think without the lockdown, we would have seen a tremendous increase in cases. And my own view is that, in fact, even the numbers that Dr. Paul is saying are probably an underestimate of what we have actually averted. However, the way forward is that the control of the disease has to move from something that the government can impose with a blunt tool like a lockdown to really individuals and communities protecting themselves. And that will have to happen at this next stage. That's what people are calling living with the virus, so to speak. It doesn't mean that the lockdown failed. You know, maybe the lockdown went on for longer than it really should have. But at this stage, I think that if the size of the peak, where the epidemic goes, is determined entirely by how we behave. It's determined by social distancing. It's determined by bans on mass gatherings. It's determined by compliance. And I don't think the government can really mandate that. This is something that's going to have to just happen around the country. The second point I'll make is that there's not one epidemic. There's obviously, there's a Maharashtra epidemic, which will peak, probably much earlier in July, a Tamil Nadu epidemic, and a UP Bihar epidemic that would peak much later. And this is a function of when the disease entered the country. The states in which you're seeing the most number of cases now are states which had a lot of international travelers coming in or Indians coming back into the country. And this is where the disease spread from. The reason why you have it in the cities now is because that's where the disease first came in. The lockdown has slowed the growth in these places, but certainly the migrant crisis has certainly moved the disease into the rural areas as well. We will undoubtedly see that growing as well. But I would hope that there has been enough preparedness that has happened at this point in time that we can take this on, whether in the urban or in the rural areas, much better than we would have.
Let me take that. Has the coronavirus cases, is that a risk, Professor Ravi, that is there, that it will move from the urban to the rural centers as, in a sense, this demographic shift takes place, migrant labor go back to their villages? Also, because take a look at testing. When you look at testing, Jammu and Kashmir, for example, seems to have, when we look at per lakh, tested far more than other states. Then you've got Delhi. Then you've got Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh. When you look at testing per million, these are Rajasthan. These are the testing stats that stand out. Maharashtra is testing, but is not testing perhaps as much as some other states in terms of per million. And you've got states like Gujarat, which are now seen to be under testing. So is that going to be a critical factor as well? How much does a particular state test?
Yeah. But the testing data really is the knowledge that we have in terms of what is the nature of the infection, Rajdeep. And tests per million might be a bit misleading simply because the nature of the infection, it's not uniformly spreading in all these different places. So the way testing has been done in India is it's based on contact tracing. And so if you look at what has been happening over time, what we have seen is that in states like Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Delhi, over time, as test numbers have increased, the infection rate, meaning for every 100 tests, how many people come out positive, that number has only been rising. In fact, that number is now close to 13 in Maharashtra, while the all India average is around 4%. Now, when that keeps increasing over time, for every 100 tests, you're getting more and more people coming positive. It just tells you that the infection is way ahead of your knowledge. Mm-hmm. But many states like Rajasthan, MP, UP, Karnataka, they have really managed to lower this infection rate with more testing.
But you've got a Bengal, you've got a Bihar. These are the worst testing states, and you've got the fear, therefore, that if and when they test more, what impact will that have on the larger numbers? Should that be a concern, as I said, as the shift takes place from urban to rural India?
Well, yes, in Bihar and Odisha in particular, though the overall numbers aren't, Bihar is now very close to Andhra Pradesh in terms of the overall number. And speaking of numbers, one other state which is similar to Bihar and Andhra Pradesh is the state of unknown, which means we don't know where these odd 3,000 people cases are from. That is the nature of the data we are talking about. But, in West Bengal, with more testing, the infection rate itself is showing a decline. Mm-hmm. And now it's close to 2%, which means, the contact tracing is of the nature where they're actually able to capture a great number of people. But this infection rate is just rising in Bihar and Odisha, and it's now close to the all India average, while they were much lower just two weeks back. But going back to your basic question, that is the infection spreading to the rest of the country, to the eastern states, etc.? Yes, it is. But still predominantly almost 2/3 of the new cases are still coming from the hotspots, which means while the infection is spreading elsewhere, it's not as big as if you were to compare it with the increase in numbers within Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, and Delhi.
Which brings me, Dr. Paul, to the question that maybe the time has come to slowly withdraw in a gradual, calibrated manner the lockdown. Take a look, for example, Dr. Paul, at recovery. Recovery in Maharashtra now is 31%. Recovery in Tamil Nadu is 53%. In Gujarat, as per the figures, 48%. Delhi, 48%. These are the worst hit states. In the worst hit states, recovery numbers are also steadily rising. Mortality rates also seem to be relatively under control at national level at 3.01. I know it's high, but it slowly seems to showing signs of coming down. If you look at the COVID deaths profile, Dr. Paul, 0 to 15 age group 0.5%, 15 to 30 age group 2.5%, 30 to 45 age group 11.4%, 45 to 60 35.1%, and 60 and above is 50%. So at least half the number of people affected are over the age of 50, particularly those who've unfortunately died. So I just want to understand from you, do these numbers suggest that maybe the lockdown has outlived its utility and we now need to sort of move to a post-lockdown scenario?
So 2 points. One, that one of the profound goals of our strategy is to make sure that the deaths are minimum possible. And so far, we are doing reasonably well. We can do better and we should do better because deaths, the incidence of deaths tells us how effective we are in responding to a situation where the patients become sick and how the health systems respond. So lockdown or no lockdown, controlling the number of deaths through prompt response, timely treatment, effective treatment, partnership of public and the private sector for healthcare response is vital. Mm-hmm. So that has to be seen in a way independent, because it doesn't matter whether we are in lockdown or we are not in lockdown. Without restrictions, the numbers would be high. So therefore, the preparedness level has to be much higher. Now, your point about how, if things look good, what should be the strategy? I think please keep in mind that we are dealing with, as Shamika said, multiple, and Ramanan said, multiple outbreak shades, many shades of gray in a way, many shades of pandemic in a state. So what you decide for, a state like Maharashtra or a city like Mumbai will be quite different from what you do in Himachal Pradesh, for example, or even in Bihar at this point in time. And we have learned this over a period of time, that this is the way the pandemic is behaving. And therefore, the decisions that are taken in terms of making relaxations more liberal or more conservative would depend on this kind of thinking.
So is it much more
Certainly,
state
you can
specific?
see,
And are you telling me that therefore the strategy now, from now on, is much more state specific, much more district specific as well?
I think it already is state specific. There are, in fact, there is a considerable relaxation. The generic restrictions are relatively finite, and then the states have flexibility to do more in certain areas. Those guidelines are available. So the states are already taking these decisions, and you can see how some states are being different from others. There is no doubt about it. And it is clear, therefore, that depending on the situation prevalent in a district or a city or a state or a geography, there has to be a nuanced approach in terms of what we do and what we do not do. At the same time, we are watchful that the illness levels do not breach the system to look after. And that is a very important metric that we need available for us to be able to respond optimally, so that the deaths are minimal, the morbidity is minimal, and things don't get out of the hand. And that is something that defines our overall approach. Very, very important.
Is that therefore the key, Dr. Lakshminarayan, going ahead, keeping mortality rates down? That when we judge the success or failure of the lockdown so far, when we even look ahead, it all is now based on keeping mortality rates down. Now, even at 3%, some would say that's very high, given the fact that if the virus spreads further and the number of cases get infected, 3% will be a large number of Indians.
No, absolutely, Rajdeep. I think we should be absolutely focused on mortality and the strategy from everything, starting from testing. Today, we spend a lot of time testing people for, who are asymptomatic, trying to control spread from them, and that's what we're using our RT-PCR for. I would advocate for actually targeting the testing to people above the age of 60 to make sure that even people with mild symptoms are being able to be brought in early, given the care that they needed, so that we prevent the deaths in that age category. Our testing strategy has to match our public health strategy, and the public health strategy, which was focused on this idea that there was no community transmission, has been sort of, not really focused necessarily on where we need to now transition into, which is on reducing mortality. I think the other part of this is also related to, as Vinodji said, this is not a state level, even a district level. This is probably down to a neighborhood level strategy that you need to contain at really that level. And really the centerpiece of this entire piece is going to be how we leverage testing. Let's not over-focus again on just sheer numbers of tests. Sure, it's great to have numbers of tests, but I don't think India can just, go up to 1 million tests a day. It's just physically impossible for us to do that. But given the numbers of tests that we have, we should be using pool testing, we should be using serological surveys, we should be using very targeted testing to go after what we really want. And that is really to make sure that the fewest number of people die from COVID. And I also think it's time to think beyond this language of the lockdown itself, because we're not really in that sort of a lockdown that we sort of started out with. I know the word lockdown is used, but I would think the next stage is not really lockdown as much as it's really community level fighting COVID. And that responsibility has to be visibly given over to communities, to states, to districts, to really formulate their strategies on. So I would say the language of how we handle COVID going forward has to also enter this post-lockdown, mentality. And there's really no other way. We can't use lockdown as our language, for the next 6 months. And we're going to have to live with this virus for at least 6 months, if not much longer than that.
Let me therefore ask you, Dr. Paul, what do we expect in the next 4 days? A further extension by a fortnight?
I would not like to comment on that. This is based on several considerations. I have tried to explain the principles behind the approach that the government has taken. We will take a collective decision which is in the best interest, keeping in mind what we have learned so far, and also keeping in mind how to keep India safe.
Dr. Ravi, what do you expect? the lockdown to be extended by another fortnight, or a much more restricted lockdown to a few states that are most vulnerable?
Well, Rajdeep, it depends on how much information the government has. I mean, it's very conditional. The less information it will have, the chances that it will be a lockdown over larger areas. Because to fine-tune the lockdown to localities, as has been suggested by everyone in this panel, will require locality-level information. So,
But we've had 2 months to get that. We've had 2 months surely to get that information now.
Yes. The only thing is, I mean, there are multiple sort of battles being fought simultaneously. Infection happens to be one of them. The state capacity is a parallel constraint that you have to appreciate, and particularly when it comes to data gathering, data tabulating, aggregating. I mean, there is a lot of capacity constraint, I think, at different state levels. Even the death rate, I mean, it's one thing to say, of course, we all want to keep the death rates down. But Rajdeep, one thing that you forgot to mention, and I think it needs highlighting, is, there are enormous variations in the death rate. I mean, if you look at the case count, then Tamil Nadu and Gujarat have very similar case counts. But Tamil Nadu has almost 1/8 the number of deaths as Gujarat. And now Maharashtra has the largest death rate. So, I'm just thinking that state capacity here and the public health infrastructure in the states will eventually determine the kind of preparedness that states are going to feel comfortable either lifting the lockdown or without it, I think just maintaining the lockdown in some form.
Okay, let's leave it there, because clearly what I wanted today was to keep the politicians out, to try and analyze exactly what's the road ahead and what we've really been able to achieve so far with the lockdown by looking at the hard numbers. I appreciate my 3 guests for joining me here on the news today. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.